Our next speaker is Dr. Joan Marter. She is professor of art history at Rutgers University and is the executor of the Dorothy Dehner estate and president of the Dehner Foundation for Visual Arts. Joan.
Okay, I'm going to quickly talk about my involvement with a charitable trust. In this case, this is Aura Lerman, and she was the president of the Women's Caucus in New York for a number of years, and she was someone that I wrote about in my years of writing art criticism. Her work was not really selling, and we still have a good bit of work that is in storage, but she had a beautiful house and studio. And so this trust has made the house into an artist's colony, I guess you could say. It's a place where artists can go in the summer. And they go there, actually groups of artists get together because I think 6 people can be there at a time. And this is the brochure. It's called Soaring Gardens. It's in Laceyville, Pennsylvania, and this is especially a delight for people that are living in the city. It gives them a chance to get out of town for a period of time in the summer. And we're just about actually now ready to do the jurying for the selections for this summer. But anyway, this brochure is out in the lobby. Could we back up a couple? Dorothy Dehner is an artist that I visited first in 1977 in connection with my research on David Smith. She was married to David Smith for 23 years, and she was a great resource for many art historians about David Smith. And then I became interested. I would say that she became a friend, and we knew one another over a period of many years. I made many trips to her studio, and also I organized 2 exhibitions of her work. This is Dorothy at 90, when she was during a show of her work in a gallery. And just a little bit more history, I did organize 2 exhibitions of her work. So I thought I had some idea about her work because I had been to the studio quite a number of times. I saw her in her studio. And I selected things for these 2 exhibitions, one of which took place here at Rutgers. It was Dorothy Dehner and David Smith. And I have some this is the installation view of people from the museum might be interested in this. This is the show that was held here in 1984 of Dehner and Smith. And then I organized a major retrospective that went to the Corcoran Gallery in Washington, D.C. of Dorothy. Now, Dorothy mentioned to me, let's say sometime in the 80s, that she wanted to put together a little committee of people who were going to be interested and involved in her work after she died. She had family members who were all not blood relatives. That was essentially a step family, and she knew that none of them were interested in art. So she asked me if I was willing to be one of 3 or so advisors that were going to help to deal with her artwork. She set up a will with an estate lawyer in New York, and much to my surprise, named me as the successor executor. Her stepson was named as the executor, and he died 3 months after Dorothy. So I received a phone call from the lawyer saying, "You are now the executor of this estate." And I say that I knew something about her work just to kind of explain how important it is for all of you to do an inventory, because I thought I knew something about her work. You're looking, oh yes, but we saw before her studio. Could you, yeah. This is, okay, well, leave that on for a second. I thought I knew her work, but what I didn't realize, since I never went through her file cabinets, is that there was a lot of work on shelves with no identification on it, and I knew that basically every sculpture had a name. She had sculpture, she had paintings, she had prints, many prints, and she had drawings. Some of the drawings had titles on them. Some of the prints had titles on them. The sculpture did not. So if I couldn't find a photograph, I had no idea what the title of the sculpture was, and I still don't know that. Now, as you've heard from this wonderfully generous lawyer who has come to join us today, Mr. Greenberg, the first thing that you need to do is to have an appraisal. So I worked with an appraiser for 3 solid days, pulling drawings out of the drawers, holding them up so the appraiser could write down a value. It was really a very painstaking process to have all of these drawings and sculpture and prints, many edition prints, appraised. Then I had to make an inventory, and I did a complete database. I had some graduate students that were hired actually for this purpose by the estate. Dorothy very wisely set up provisions for a foundation. So her estate, after all of the money, basically almost all of the money, unfortunately, was sent out to her heirs. There was very little money left for the foundation, and that was quickly, let's say, decimated by some legal things that came up involving her dealer. So now I'm in a situation, and this is 14 years later, where I have a studio, I have work in that studio, I have an inventory of everything that is in the studio, and I hope to sell a few artworks occasionally because that's what pays the rent. I'm trying to manage as best I can, but this is essentially a part-time job for a very, very busy person, and I get paid nothing because there's no money to pay me. I work on this when the time presents itself. I do have plans to do an exhibition, actually, that's going to be coming up. I support the work of other scholars who come to the studio and want to see Dorothy's work. I have kept her studio going. This is the studio she had since 1955. You can show some of the other slides now. Just wanted to show you some examples of her work. And basically what I do now is I receive phone calls mostly from museum people who want to have examples of her work for their collection. Sometimes I know curators, or even former students of mine that are now curators, and I try to what's called distribute her artwork, which of course is required by law since we are a nonprofit. We distribute artwork every year to various museums. But I wait for the museums to contact me. And it's worked out very well. I also know that it's not so easy to give artwork. It's not so easy to give artwork away because museums don't want to take everything. But in this case, since this is a fairly well-known artist, I've had some success in placing her artwork in various collections. And other than that, there are still some chances of selling the work, although those are not so frequent now because of the art market. You might see, for example, right here in this building, if you notice on your way out, in the lobby of this building, there is a large sculpture with some furniture in front of it, a sofa and 2 chairs. That is a piece by Dorothy Dehner that was given by the Dehner Foundation to the Alexander Library here at Rutgers, and they beautifully installed it and lit it appropriately, and I'm very happy that certainly the best thing you can do is to make an inventory. Please make sure that if you want titles with your work, if you don't want to have 40 pieces that say untitled, make sure the pieces have somehow the title attached to them. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but you just have to make sure that the titles are next to the piece. And then I would suggest also, if you can give some artwork away in your lifetime to museums especially, please try to do that because that's really a very worthwhile endeavor. I remember years ago, Dorothy Dehner was invited to give a talk at the Whitney Museum because they were talking about the Art Students League, and all of the other artists that were being included in this exhibition about the Art Students League, there were big paintings on the walls this is a branch of the Whitney, and Dorothy had only a little print. And I said, Dorothy, that's the only thing that's owned by the Whitney Museum of your work? And she said, well, if they want something, they should buy it. And, you know, frankly, I have to say, the Whitney to this day doesn't own anything else of hers. But she was extremely generous with Rutgers. We have quite a number of examples of her work because she had a show here. So I'll be happy to answer questions later.
Okay. Staying on the curatorial side and moving down the table is Magda Salveson. She is a historian.